So the Chang International Circuit, 4.55 kilometres in length, just under 2.9 miles, a short, hot 40-minute flight away from Bangkok, or a 5-hour drive if that takes your fancy. 12 corners, 7 right, 5 of them left. It features a 1,000-metre straight where the MotoGP bikes approach 350 kilometres an hour in top gear, are braking in 3 corners, which also offer great overtaking hot spots. The first opportunity in the very first corner before you have the through turn 2. Marc Márquez for the tumble at turn 3 in qualifying this morning. World champion Jorge Martín was down at turn 5 in a thrilling Q2 session this morning. And are we set for more Chang drama in turn 12? Turns 1, 3 and 12, well, they are the hardest braking zones around this Buriram circuit, and turn 2 and turn 3 really face those Michelin tyres. Overtaking hot spots, well, 4 in the 12 corners give good opportunities to make. This was 12 months ago. What a showdown. The 4th closest Premier Class podium in history as Martín went toe-to-toe with Bagnaia. Well, there was drama from the lights out, wasn't there? 6 days ago in Phillip Island as Marc Márquez blasted away from the front of the grid with a tear-off stuck under his front tyre. It dropped times world champion back down to 13th place in the first corner. He then produced a phenomenal fight back in Phillip Island. The fight he had late on with world championship leader Jorge Martín as Pecco Bagnaia had faded out of victory contention in 3rd place. This was one of several moves that Márquez made on Martín into turn 4. And after all the early drama, after the dramatic start, it was a fantastic finish down under for Marc Márquez as he took his 3rd victory in the last 6 Grand Prix. Now though, it's all eyes, it's all attention on Chapter 18 at the Chang International Circuit. That's what is turning into another epic showdown, a toe-to-toe battle with MotoGP's big heavyweights. Pecco Bagnaia, the reigning world champion, well, he's been here before, hasn't he, in 2022 and 2023, but once again he is playing catch-up. 20 points behind series leader Jorge Martín, and just to add a little bit of fuel to the fire at a baking hot Buriram. Our 2 title contenders start next to each other on the front row of the grid after a really dramatic, nail-biting Q2 session this morning here in northeast Thailand. The outcome of it was Pecco Bagnaia taking just his 4th pole position of the season with a blockbuster lap of 128.700. That was nearly half a second inside of Marc Márquez's all-time lap record set yesterday. Bagnaia then on pole position for the 22nd time in his MotoGP career. They are the overtaking hotspots here in Buriram. Turn 1, turn 3, turn 5 and turn 12. Turn 5 played a significant role in this morning's Q2 because it was right there where Martín crashed the Prix Ducati when he was on a real strong lap, a potential record lap and a potential pole lap himself for the Spaniard. He got away with it, really, you have to say, Jorge Martín, because that spill at turn 5 did very little damage to his grid position because he still finds himself on the 24, his best starting position since his Portimao pole position all the way back at round 2. Marc Márquez alluded to yesterday, if Bastianini is fast on a Friday, well then you better watch out because it normally means he's going to be fast throughout the weekend. Well, that has proven to be. Bastianini, a little bit of doubts about his race pace over the long distance. Let's see what he can do in the 13-lap sprint coming up shortly. Turn 3, well, there was a scare early on in Q2 at turn 3 for Marc Márquez on the rear tyre, saved that one, but he was in hot pursuit of Martín as they both hunted pole position and attack on a 128 themselves. Márquez went down at turn 3. He finds himself on the middle of the second row in 5th place, and a bit like Martín, Lewis, you felt like he got out of jail a little bit because neither of them really punished for those mistakes in Q2 this morning.
Yeah, he still starts in the middle of the second row, and it does feel as if the big 4 in 2024, the 4 at the top of the World Championship, the 2 battling for the ultimate prize and the 2 who are almost certainly battling for 3rd now They are the four that are expecting to battle it out at the front this afternoon and tomorrow, and that's not to rule out Marco Bezzecchi, who starts fourth at a circuit that's been very, very strong for him in the past. Bezzecchi lining up in fourth place, but Marc Márquez in fifth. Expect him to be a genuine contender at the front of the field here this afternoon. He's had very good pace throughout this weekend, and as you say, he added to his already quite lengthy list of qualifying crashes this season, but wasn't punished anywhere near as much as he has been previously.
So he goes from fifth place on the grid at 129.386. He was almost 0.7 of a second back of Pecco Bagnaia. Fabio Quartararo then won a performance by the Frenchman, sixth place on the grid with a 129.408. He was sixth fastest this morning, the 25-year-old. His equal best qualifying performance of the season from Quartararo. You do feel the 129.4 is Quartararo's ceiling. His lap time in Q1 compared to his lap time in Q2, the difference just 0.02 of a second. He was actually slightly faster in Q1, a session which he led ahead of Fabio Di Giannantonio. Quartararo then goes from sixth place. Excellent performance by the factory Yamaha rider. Just for reference as well, the last time Quartararo qualified in the second row was the other time this season in Mandalika, where we used that special heat-resistant, harder compound Michelin rear tyre. So the Yamaha does seem to go well with that special tyre which Michelin introduced for the abrasive and hot conditions of Lombok and Buriram.
You can't say enough good things about Fabio Quartararo's performance this morning. Sixth place on the grid, the fastest non-Ducati on the grid for Fabio Quartararo, and you just saw visibly on the Yamaha this morning how hard he was pushing, saving it on his elbow as he came through the left-hander of turn 5. He was giving it absolutely everything, and certainly, as we heard from Lynn Jarvis speaking to Aprilia this morning, he had no ending of respect for the job that Fabio was doing earlier on. He starts from sixth on the grid, but as I think Matt quite rightly points out, expect him to be fighting rearguard action from there rather than trying to do anything for the Ducatis up ahead of him.
Well, that was more like Matt Burt pace down the back straight there, wasn't it, as the riders go into fuel-saving mode with some brutal hard acceleration points here in Buriram, particularly on the exit of turn 1, turn 3 and turn 12. It's another fuel-thirsty circuit here, and of course over the half-distance 13-lap sprint, well, you want to be running the lowest amount of fuel as you possibly dare to carry. The helicopter shot then pans over the wonderful main grandstand here in Buriram, which gives you one of the best and most unrivaled vantage points, I think, of the entire season. And if Buriram is on your bucket list and you do eventually one day make it to this part of northeast Thailand, well, I strongly advise you take a seat in the main grandstand, because you get a view of every millimetre of this 4.5 kilometre circuit. This is the sighting lap. We're looking back to Jorge Martín. Just look, they're barely, well, they're not on the throttle, are they? They're coasting at the slowest possible speed. The field come to the grid then. There is your pole starter, P1 on the grid for the rider still carrying that number 1 plate, Pecco Bagnaia. Phillip Island last weekend, only the third time this season the 27-year-old did not lead a lap over the weekend with Aragon and in Kota. 13 Grand Prix podiums so far for Bagnaia. Done so much of his good work on Sundays, but last time out, that disappointing drop to 4th place in Phillip Island sprint. That was the 9th time in 17 Pecco Bagnaia has missed the sprint podium.
Just to show how fine the margins were this morning, we heard from Davide Tarozzi that Pecco Bagnaia didn't have enough fuel on his final one in Q2 to even do the sighting lap. They were cutting it so fine to get everything they could out of it. So what could Pecco Bagnaia do from pole position, and what will be the tactics for the Ducati Lenovo team from their 1-2 on the grid? Davide Tarozzi is on the grid with Simon.
He is. Davide, like always, got to hear your thoughts going into this sprint.
Yeah. I think that the practice shows that so many riders has a very good and fast race pace, and then can have the podium. Despite the problem of Jorge and Marc, that they crash, they are 3rd and 5th. So they both are really tough competitor for the podium. But we'll see what Pecco and Daniel can do. But again, I think that the first laps will be very important, because to overtake here with so many riders riders with the same race pace will be one of the problems.
Speaking of overtaking, one other question, front tyre temperature. If you're not in front, is that a worry?
Yeah, because here is very hot and very humid, especially very humid, so leading the race is much better than being behind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Davide Tardozzi. These are increasingly more nervy and more anxious, more tense moments, aren't they? Particularly when you're in the position of Jorge Martín and Pecco Bagnaia. Marc Márquez in the pre-event press conference on Thursday, a rider who's been in this position throughout his entire Grand Prix career, pretty much. He's been in this position 8 times, hasn't he, where he's gone on to win the World Championship. Marc Márquez said at this stage of the season, when you're so close to glory, you're not enjoying much of it. You are just suffering. Jorge Martín said in the build-up to this Thai Grand Prix, he's been a little bit nervous. I think Jorge Martín's probably just happier when he's on the bike.
Yeah.
Blocks out all the distractions. It's just him, man and machine versus the rest of the pack. How's Martín feeling then going into this 13-lap sprint? A 6-time sprint winner already so far in 2024. Desperate to build on that 20-point lead over Bagnaia in the championship. Let's get the thoughts of Primoz comeback Ducati boss Gino Borsoi. Here's with Simon.
Gino, really interested to hear what you think. Watching qualifying, Jorge getting that front row time on the board, and on the second tyre he was so fast before the mistake. Do you think he's got something extra here? Can literally jump into the lead and go?
Well, honestly speaking, we worked a lot yesterday to try to find the best balance for the sprint and for the long race of tomorrow. The pace was so good, the feeling was good yesterday and even to this morning. So, but I saw the speed of the other rider. We have no something more compared to Pecco Bagnaia, and Bastianini and Márquez. So could be a race for and the end will be tough.
We've seen in the past when it's hot like this, they fight for the fresh air, trying to get in front for that front tyre.
Yeah, for sure this is the key of the race today, even tomorrow. If you are in front, you have a small advantage because the pressure doesn't go up so much. If you are behind, especially if we are in a group with 4 or 5 riders, so it could be a problem for the end. But let's see, we have a strategy. Let's see if it can work in.
Thank you, Gino.
Thank you.
Shark fans, young and old. Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Gino Borsoi. The Shark fans, young and old, out in force here in Buriram, and it is great to see the Shark back in action, doing a pretty good job as well, of course. This time last weekend, he was in a bit of pain and discomfort, was Pedro Acosta. That nasty high side at Siberia in the sprint left him with stretched ligaments in the left shoulder, which are going to take some weeks to heal. Thankfully, no surgery required for the rookie. Missed the Australian Grand Prix on Sunday. Back in action, though, here in Buriram, and once again, he's the leading light, the bright star for the PR Mobility Group as Acosta goes from 7th place on the grid, the only KTM actually that featured in this morning's Q2.
Yeah, Brad Binder narrowly eliminated in Q1. He's not been particularly lucky with those fine margins this weekend. 1,000th of a second denied Binder Q2 yesterday, and he missed out by a slightly bigger margin in qualifying earlier on today. We're looking at Alex Marquez. He starts 9th. His teammate Marc Márquez starts 5th. Mercedes McKay.
A star-studded Ducati front row. The world champion Bagnaia leads the field away for this 13-lap Tissot sprint. Alongside him, steady on board, it's only the warm-up lappers. There's almost contact there between Martin, Bezzecchi and Bastianini. Bastianini second on the grid there, next to his factory Ducati colleague Pecco Bagnaia. Jorge Martín, he goes away from 3rd place. 30 degrees is the ambient temperature. I've got to say, when I climb what feels like the 50 set of stairs to get to our commentary box, not complaining because we have a spectacular bird's eye view of the Chang International Circuit complex, but it certainly did feel a lot hotter than that. There it is there. That is your championship picture. 17 brilliant rounds completed. Hopefully 3 more classics still to come. And we are accustomed to classics here, aren't we, in Thailand, particularly over the full race distance. 2018, the brilliant last corner battle, Márquez versus Dovizioso, followed 1 year later, 2019. Márquez versus Quartararo, the day that Márquez won the last of his 8 world titles. And then cast your minds back to the Sunday action here last year, when we had the 4th closest Premier Class finish in history. Save the date and stay tuned for more, because exciting times for Thai MotoGP fans as we get set for an exciting official season launch in Bangkok on February the 9th. Date for your diaries. And of course, we will be back the first weekend in March to kick off the 2025 MotoGP World Championship. A 2025 season that will start right here in Buriram. But who will be wearing the #1 plate? Who will be our defending and reigning world champion? Will it still be Ducati superstar Pecco Bagnaia, or will the baton pass to Jorge Martín as he looks to be the first ever independent team world champion? Fonz Nieto on the left, rider coach for Jorge Martín, looks remarkably relaxed. Can't say the same about the team boss Gino Borsoi, who looked incredibly pensive, incredibly nervous, as you'd understand, as we get set then here for race action at the Chang International Circuit. It's lights out, we're racing in the sprint here in Buriram. It's a brilliant launch away from that pole position by the world champion Pecco Bagnaia, but how aggressive is Jorge Martín on the run down to the first corner. Martín runs Bagnaia out wide to the paintwork. Bastianini and Marc Márquez sweep on through. Martín's aggression has really cost both him and Bagnaia dearly here, because Martín's now slipped in behind Pedro Acosta.
Martín uber aggressive, he desperately wanted track position on this first lap. He's now battling with Pedro Acosta for 4th place. Marc Márquez is up into 2nd. He had a very good start. Marco Bezzecchi had a shocker.
Bezzecchi, Binder and Vinales all wide on the gas coming out turn 3. So all that early melee, all that early mayhem has put an air Bastianini away at the front. Bagnaia has fought back. He's back into 2nd place. Head of Marc Márquez out of shape, snaking sideways on the brakes into turn 5 when Acosta.
So Bastianini with 4 or 5 bike lengths, half a second of an advantage. Marc Márquez is racing for himself. He's not interested in who wins this World Championship, so don't expect him to be too shy up behind Pecco Bagnaia. Martín attacking again, but Acosta defending and having a little look at Márquez in 4th place.
Yeah, somebody was out the seat. I think that was Fabio Quartararo on the factory Yamaha. He almost sent himself to the moon once again. It's that age-old problem for the Yamaha, struggling to get the temperature in that rear tyre despite the excessive hot conditions here. On board then with Martín. He's going to attack. He's got the inside line. How good is Acosta on the brakes into turn 12? He's very good. Razor sharp is the rookie. He holds off Martín then into 12. What a first lap that was. What a first corner that was in the sprint. Bastianini leads from Bagnaia, Márquez, Acosta, and Martín back to 5th.
Can't remember the last time, probably Valencia last year, the last time I've seen Jorge Martín this aggressive in any kind of MotoGP race or sprint, but he has to be now, having lost that ground on the first lap. Bagnaia sits 2nd. Here comes Martín once again, but Pedro Acosta is so difficult on that KTM to overtake under braking.
Acosta, absolute demon on the brakes, isn't he? We've seen how good he is defending Martín into turn 12, defended him on an overtaking hot spot as well down into turn 3. That is just brilliant by the rookie. He was in a lot of pain with that left shoulder. He's sort of partially dislocated, 6 days ago in Phillip Island. Martín now then sends it on the inside into turn 5. This time around, he has found a way through. That's the very same corner this morning where Martín's pole hopes disappeared. The crash washing the front out in that very turn 5.
He wasn't prepared to wait any longer, so he now just has one rider between himself and Pecco Bagnaia. That one rider is Marc Márquez, sitting in 3rd place. Bastianini's lead remains around about half a second, halfway around this 2nd lap. That moment for Fabio Quartararo, and I think there was another one at the start of the 2nd lap, has dropped him all the way down to 15th place.
Bastianini building a relatively comfortable buffer at the front of this sprint then now as they attack towards the first gear, turn 12. We know how good Marc Márquez is here in this particular part of Buriram. Not close enough though to launch an offensive on Bagnaia. Bastianini, fastest rider in this sprint, some early pace, 129.820. Martín also the only other rider with Bagnaia in those 129s. Nearly 3/4 of a second clear though is the beast.
There was a big battle battle outside our commentary box window going on into the final corner between Frankie Morbidelli and the two VR46 Ducatis. They're battling for 8th, 9th and 10th. Bezzecchi got probably the worst start of anyone off the line as Pedro Acosta so nearly ran into the back of the World Championship leader.
Do you know what? That's a bit of slipstream there. Almost 350 kilometres an hour through the kink, turn 2. And then also with the aero getting sucked in, the vacuum behind Martin. Did a great job there, Acosta, just to make sure there was no contact into that heavy braking zone for turn 3. Keep an eye on Jorge Martin then. 3rd place he fires away from on the grid on the Prix MotoGP Ducati. Immediately look, he's ahead of an Air Bastianini, then attacks aggressively on the inside, almost runs over the curve on the inside. Well, that aggression runs him off the circuit. Oh, and there was almost contact there, wasn't there, as Marquez came sweeping on through.
Yeah, Martin's returning to the racetrack from the outside, and it's very difficult to try and find a safe place to slot into when there are 21 MotoGP bikes coming your way. This is what it looked like from Acosta's point of view, as Martin there had to just check up to not tag the rear tyre of Marc Márquez, and that cost him 2 further places. He's now closing right back up behind Marc Márquez. It's Jorge Martin. Bastianini, though, is stretching his legs at the front of this Tito sprint. 3 laps of 13 completed. A 29.6 fastest lap of the sprint. Bastianini's lead is 9/10 of a second.
Yeah, and there's nobody that's got that pace. They're not far behind him. Bagnaia 29.8, Marquez 29.8, Martin 29.8. But the problem is, with clear air ahead of him and no sort of major concerns about his front tyre pressure and temperature, Bastianini just that couple of tenths, 1/10 quicker than the pursuing pack. Into turn 3 we go then, through this 4th lap of 13. Alex Marquez looking pretty... Oh!
That's Acosta,
that's Pedro Acosta. Pedro Acosta's string of DNFs continues. It was a double DNF from pole position, wasn't it, in Motegi? The DNF in the Phillip Island sprint last weekend, which tweaked that left shoulder and ruled him out of the Australian Grand Prix. So that is now a 4th successive race DNF for the rookie.
Yeah, he's straight back up on his feet. You can see the damage there on the rider's right of that gas KTM machine going down to the right-hander of turn 3. He nearly ran into Martin here a lap ago. You could see him trying to slide his way into turn 3. He was offline and in the end off the racetrack altogether.
Well, desperate not to have that 4th DNF in a row then, as Acosta has remounted. Yeah, he was just wide. Dirty part of the circuit, picking up the throttle, no grip out there on the marbles. That was a pretty inevitable outcome. So Acosta learning the hard way once again here in Buriram. Here's Martin then. Eases on the inside of Marc Márquez. He has found a way through. Can he pull it down to the apex? He's a little bit offline. He runs a little bit wide. Márquez fancied a little retaliatory move on the inside, but there's no way through. Door gets slammed shut. Martin moving forward then now into the podium places for the first time since the first corner.
And right back onto the rear tyre of Pecco Bagnaia once again, who continues to have no pace, no answer for an Air Bastianini. Jorge Martin does, if he can get past the defending champion. Martin was actually a fraction faster, 1,000th faster than the leader was last time around. Bastianini on a 29.6, matched by Jorge Martin, who is now 1.5 off the lead, but more importantly, 1 place behind Bagnaia.
He's loving sprint Saturdays of late, Bastianini. 4 successive podiums in our last 4 sprints. Only victorious on one occasion, though, when he did the double. The victory as Marquez goes wide. He goes in hot into turn 4, that blind entry, just trying to recover at the ground here to Bagnaia, and Martin ahead of him. And Air Bastianini well on course for what will be just his 2nd sprint success. But we're focusing, with good reason, on the 2 title contenders. Martin, your series leader, looking directly ahead to his chief adversary here, Pecco Bagnaia. Through turn 9 we go. The long radius right-hander, then you come into this real high speed, fast change direction now into the last sector. Left you go through turn 10, through the 4th gear, turn 11 now, and then you back up to 5th gear briefly, and then hard on the brakes, back 4 gears to this very tight, gnarly right-hander.
Yeah, if Jorge Martin thought that Pedro Acosta was difficult to overtake under braking, he's going to find a similar problem here from Pecco Bagnaia. Martin with the fastest lap of the sprint, a 1:29.554. For the first time in the sprint, actually, even Bagnaia was quicker than Bastianini. Bagnaia did respond to Martini right behind him with his personal best.
Martin's gone wide. He was off the circuit there. Got to be careful with the track limits here, because he was right off the course on the exit of turn 1. What he was trying to do there was just get himself fired up, lined up for a big slingshot, get the acceleration and try and attack Bagnaia on the brakes into 3. But you can see how much time he lost. He was right off the circuit there, was Martin. So a little mistake just right off the bat at that 1:29.554, which is the fastest lap of the sprint.
Is Bagnaia starting to just get up to speed though now in this sprint with that 1:29.708 last time around? I guess he would have been relatively happy. If a bike's going to disappear up the road, it might as well be his teammate Enea Bastianini, 1.1 seconds up the road. I'm sure he would quite like Enea to lend him some assistance, but Enea has already made it clear this weekend that that point hasn't arrived yet.
So the gap shrinking by just 2 points. Every point priceless though and precious at this stage of the season. What Bagnaia, you feel, can't afford to do is to surrender more points, even in this sprint format here today to Jorge Martín. It just gives another fillip, another boost of confidence, doesn't it? To the number 89. They sweep through the 4th gear, turn 11, and now Martín trying to ease alongside Bagnaia. We know how good Bagnaia is on the brakes into turn 12. He tried that ridiculously audacious move on the outside of Martín and Binder late on in the Grand Prix here last year, so nearly pulling off the overtake of the century. Bastianini then 1 second now clear of the chasing pack. 1:29.9s exchanged by Bagnaia, Martín and Márquez. Alex Márquez doing a good job there in 5th place. He's got 1.5 seconds back to Brad Binder. Points in the offing at the moment for Morbidelli, Gian Antonio and Bezzecchi.
Turn 12 is essentially the part of the racetrack where Bagnaia needs to be strong to hold Martín at bay. Martín gets a good run on him through turn 10 and the little right-hand flick of 11, which leads down to that final corner, and it's the kind of corner that's really geared up perfectly for a block pass. So on the final lap of the sprint, where the finish line is right on the exit of that final corner, it is geared up to just send it up the inside and just block the inside of the corner off. But Martín doesn't look like he wants to wait until then.
What we can see as well is Marc Márquez is struggling to run this pace, so the 2 GP24s ahead of him on ball with Martín, and that was just as aggressive as he made the move on Bagnaia. Now he's wide again. He is wide again. Now there's surely very, very soon going to be a track limits warning coming the way for the Prix Ducati rider. He has found his way through on the world champion. Now that's lit up the eyes once again of Marc Márquez, who would slip nearly 0.6 of a second further back on that group.
Right on cue, track limits warning for Jorge Martín. The tarmac has to be green for a track limits violation to count. If it's blue, you're okay. Jorge Martín definitely did go onto the green there as he passed Bagnaia and has been given that track limits warning for it. Does Bagnaia have anything by way of a response, or is Martín going to try and close that gap up to Bastianini, which has now grown with that battle up to 1.6 seconds?
Well, he's been off the track at turn 1, he's been off the track now at turn 9 as well. It's been a little bit messy as he's come marauding through from that 5th place early on. Long gone at the front is Bastianini, who's now nearly 1.7 seconds clear of Jorge Martín, who will now see that message on his dashboard, just giving him something else to think about, something else to contend with. This was the move he lined up. He came from a long, long way back. That was lovely. That was clinically executed, wasn't it, by Martín. He is going to run, though, wide on the exit. You can clearly see it there as he goes off the circuit by, what, a good foot, maybe even a little bit more.
Gino Borsoi, he wasn't sure whether he wanted to watch all of that. You can still follow live in the bottom corner of screens. We now take the full live battle from the overhead shot. Marc Márquez with a watching brief at the moment in that 4th place. Next behind this trio is Alex Márquez, who's running in 5th place. He started his sprint on the soft front tyre, so potentially might run into some problems later on, but he does have a 2-second buffer back to Brad Binder in 6th.
Bagnaia's got bother here because through the first sector his deficit to Martín was a 10.5. Through the second split it had doubled to nearly 0.3 of a second, and now it's nearly 0.4 of a second. At the moment he's not got the pace to go with Martín. He's desperately trying to make up ground on the brakes into turn 12. You could see his rear tyre, that factory Ducati fishtailing on the rear end into turn 12. That battle further back between, I think it's Jack Miller and Marco Bezzecchi rages on for the back end of the point scoring places. Just a little bit twitchy, a little bit nervous was that rear tyre of Jorge Martín as he grabbed a handful of throttle to launch himself down this long 1,000 metre straight.
Yeah, Martín upped his pace, as you can see bottom of your screen, is to a 29.7. He's trying to scamper off the road and just get himself clear of Pecco Bagnaia. Don't give Bagnaia any encouragement in the final 5 laps, and doesn't sound like much, does it, gaining 2 points on Pecco Bagnaia, but at this stage of the season, extending that lead from 20 to 22 and removing 1 more sprint off the table. There are only going to be 2 more sprints after this one and 3 Sunday races. It takes another opportunity away from Pecco Bagnaia to gain points, so it might not sound like a big advantage he's gaining here, but it is a big one.
Not just that, it's psychological as well, to finish ahead of your chief championship rival. That's just the main goal now then. He was really, really close to the edge of the track limit there once again. Well, we're going to have to keep a very close eye on this one because Jorge Martín in the very same corner where, look, you can see the faces. Fonzi Nieto straight away on the radio. Gino Borsoi fearing the worst here because they think that maybe like us, it was very, very, very close. I mean, millimetres maybe in it. But did Jorge Martín once again stray on the wrong side of the track limits there?
Well, if he does, it's a long lap penalty potentially coming his way. Let's have a look then on the outside. Ooh. He definitely, I think, well, he's on the edge of the curb. Did he trigger the sensor?
Wow.
That's going to be the ultimate issue there. As they see the wag of the finger from Fonzi Nieto, he was definitely on the edge of that curb, but was he over it?
Well, if he'd have had one more mouthful of pasta at lunch, he probably was going to be over it. Crikey. Talk about flirting with the extreme there. Jorge Martín, no wonder there are nervous faces down in Prima Pramac Ducati. As it is, Martín free to carry on this brilliant defence, this brilliant attack as well. I mean, come through from 5th place, got through on Acosta, got through on Marc Márquez, got through on Pecco Bagnaia. 3 riders that are incredibly hard to overtake in MotoGP. And as we were just about to mention, psychologically, just to finish ahead of your rival, the points are important as well, but just psychologically to show Pecco Bagnaia what you've got and how hard he's going to be over the Grand Prix distance tomorrow.
It's through here where he often goes onto the green. He's well within it that time. Well, I say well within it, enough. He didn't go anywhere near the edge of the curve. Surely the Pramac team are all over that and just giving Jorge Martín the information he will already know from the FIA MotoGP stewards that he is on the edge of track limits and potentially a long lap penalty with that warning. So surely Jorge Martín needs to leave a little bit of margin, but of course he's not got much margin to play with Pecco Bagnaia just 4/10 behind him.
Yeah, turn 7, it's a 3rd gear corner, 175 kilometres an hour, so you are motoring through there. Good reason this, isn't it, for Bagnaia, not really needed it to really heat the pressure on Martín. The gap between the two, the fair play to Bagnaia, he's the only rider at the moment that's keeping himself in the 129s. 129.984 from the world champion. This is still game on for 2nd place here in this sprint. I think we can forget about Bastianini. He's checked out, still 1.4 seconds clear at the front, although his pace is just tapering off a little bit, down to a 130.3. But Bagnaia was a couple of tenths quicker on that last circuit than Martín.
And Márquez is looking an increasingly lonely and fading 4th place. The 93 just in the background there, you can see him just behind this pair, which are the centre of our attention, the battle for 2nd place, and of course so much more than that on the line with the World Championship battle. Jorge Martín coming through the left-handers now of 5 and 6, and the right-hander of 7, as we watch Pedro Acosta pulling into the pits and withdrawing from this Grand Prix. Here comes Jorge Martín. Once again, this is the key corner, and he's just about okay. Of course, to remind you, if he goes out there on the final lap, it's an automatic 1 position drop.
He is sending heart rate soaring, isn't he, inside that Prima Pramac Ducati garage right now, Martín. So unfortunately, it is a 4th consecutive race DNF for Pedro Acosta, who has decided to call it quits. There is your live championship. 22 points would be Jorge Martín's lead, and here comes Bagnaia. He closes up so much ground, doesn't he? He gets such good speed, such good drive through that 4th gear turn 11, and we know how good he is on the brakes into turn 12. And once again, 130 flat, an exact 92nd lap that was from Pecco Bagnaia to keep this pressure building on Martín.
Just how much does he need these extra 2 points? In real terms in the championship, it's 4 points because he would take 2 away from Jorge Martín. We're down now into turn number 3. Martín a little bit wide there. He does take a late apex, which will give him a good slingshot down towards turn number 4, but again, just gives Bagnaia a little bit of encouragement.
Yeah, I've noticed Martín does that frequently. He does like to favour that wider sort of sweeping line to carry the exit speed, and that slingshot out of turn 3. Likey. Thought he was got to be so careful here. He has got to be right now millimetre perfect, which is easier said than done when you've got the world champion breathing right down your neck. This is turn 7 then, where he's had his issues with the track limits. This time around he gives himself plenty of margin for error, but still in the hunt for 2nd place is Bagnaia. The gap between the pair of them just under 0.3 of a second. This is all in. How's your risk and reward ratio right now for Martin and Bagnaia?
Bagnaia's opportunity will surely come here on the final lap into turn 12, but Martin, as we saw earlier on when he was chasing Bagnaia, was so good through the sequence of corners leading up to this, that Bagnaia is not close enough to make an attack. We are on to the final lap of this Saturday sprint in Thailand. Bastianini's well clear, but is Martin going to hold on to this second place?
Fair play to Martin, he did respond. 1:30.087 on that last lap. That was a couple of tenths quicker than Bagnaia in third place. Has Martin got this second covered off here? We're about to find out. Nowhere near close enough, is he even to even show Martin a wheel? Is Bagnaia as they hit the brakes into turn 3 on this final lap.
Bagnaia might well have settled for this now. Looking at the gap there as they come out of turn 3 down to 4. Bagnaia nowhere near close enough to put any pressure on Jorge Martín. Bastianini has a comfortable lead of his own out of the front, but Bagnaia looks like he's just going to have to lick his wounds here and just focus on the bigger battle ahead tomorrow.
And Jorge Martín will go into tomorrow's 26th lap Grand Prix of Thailand knowing the situation. The match's pretty simple. He'll have to DNF and Pecco Bagnaia will have to win the Grand Prix if Martin is to lose control of the MotoGP World Championship with just 2 rounds to go. This feels like another big statement ride from Martin. It's not the victory he wanted, but he is going to get the better of Pecco Bagnaia in a shootout between the two title contenders. It has been no problem at all, has it, for Enea Bastianini? He's led from start to finish here in this Tissot sprint in Buriram. Just 1 corner remaining, and it is a second sprint win of 2024 for Enea Bastianini, but taking 2 points more into his championship lead. In second place goes Jorge Martin, second in the sprint here in Buriram. Pecco Bagnaia does complete the podium. He finishes over a second behind Martin at the checker flag. Marc Márquez comes over the line in a very lonely 4th place, 4.7 seconds clear of younger brother Alex, who's back inside the top 5. The top 6 rounded out by Frankie Morbidelli. Points of Bezzecchi, the Gian Antonio and Brad Binder.
Top 8 all on Ducatis. Just another measure of their strengths. There are 8 of them in the field. They locked out the top 8 in the sprint. What that all means for Jorge Martin with a 22